Yeah, hello Eric. Nice to meet you here on my channel. Eric, you're not a pilot, not only a pilot in China, but also a recruiter for various airlines. Please introduce yourself briefly.
Hi, Tino. How are you? Very nice to meet you, and thank you for inviting me to your channel for this interview. My name is Erick Silva, and I am an A320 instructor in Yufeng Airlines. I have a total of 13,000 hours, and I have been living in China, working for Yufeng for the past 8 years. And as well, I am the CEO of Yufeng Consulting, which is a agency or company in charge of doing outsourcing, headhunting, and recruitment for Chinese airlines. So far, we've been working with more than 20 airlines. And between these airlines, one of our best clients, of course, is Yufeng Airlines, the airline I work for as a pilot as well, together with the Spring Airlines, Lung Air, West Air, between others.
Okay, yeah. In the past few months, everything has been turned upside down. What about aviation in China today?
Well, fortunately, aviation in China is getting a lot more better. As we all know, since December 2019, the COVID situation started affecting China initially. In January, the virus started spreading all around China, and by February, most of the airlines reduced their flights significantly. Fortunately, China managed to control the situation in a record time compared to other countries. So by the end of March, things were starting to come back to normal within the country, of course, just in China. So during April, we'll start flying around 50% of the domestic flights. Then after that, it increased. And now we are already in September, and the flights will resume this month at 100% for the domestic flights. Of course, we cannot do international flights until the other countries start recovering from this situation as well. So the situation in China is quite well, but in order for the aviation in China to continue improving, now we depend on the other countries.
Okay. Do we have airlines that are currently looking for pilots in China?
Yes, of course. We have now 2 airlines looking for pilots. One of them is Spring Airlines based in Shanghai, and the other is Lung Air based in Hangzhou. All the other airlines just temporarily stop recruitment, while Spring and Lung Air are doing are collecting pilots' documents and trying to do as many interviews as they can, video interviews. And once things get better, all the pilots who were able to pass these interviews will be invited to China to come to continue the screening or the recruitment process.
Okay, let's hold on that point a little bit. When both of us, we met 3 years ago in Berlin, we had a nice chat. And after 1 hour, my interview was done for Jinhao Airlines. How does it look like today? You said it's a video interview. How does it look like, and how do the pilots have to prepare for an interview like that? Because it's unusual.
That's right. That's right. Well, the interview is it depends. It's totally different from pilot to pilot. So there's not really a way to fully prepare for it. So we have to basically study everything and try to use our experience and our knowledge to answer the questions, because depending on how
it can be from 100% technical topics to 100% personal topics and everything in between.
That's right. For example, Lung Air, it's more oriented to personal interview. And Spring Airlines is more related, the interview is more related to technical problems or technical information, let's say technical information, like the information we get on the FCOM or the SOP or the procedures coming from the A320 manuals in this case, because as you may know already, Lungu Air and Spring Airlines are recruiting specifically captains, A320 captains. So to prepare for the interview, basically we have to study everything, because the questions there's none not a guide or something that the pilots can use in order for these interviews, because the instructors that will interview the applicants have no guide either. So at the moment, depending what they prepare maybe that morning or that day, maybe they chose some questions from the FCOM or from the QRH or from any other place, and then that day they will use that questions. So we have to study everything.
Okay, and I think one of the first challenge will be the interview itself, done by Zoom or by WeChat or FaceTime. As we realized, to prepare for an interview, it's not easy, yeah? And you have to figure out, maybe you have to practice in advance a little bit. Okay, that's interesting. What happens if the interview is done, if it's passed? Tell me something about the time frame we have to expect.
Okay, so well, now the time frame is it's uncertain, because normally in a normal process, the time frame is around 4 months, depending on the pilot availability to come to China to continue the screening. So normally it's around 4 months. But now, first we collect the pilot documents, then the pilots will go for the interview. And after finishing the interview, now we have to wait, as I said before, until restrictions in the country from people coming from other countries are canceled, in order for the pilots to easily come to China. Because now one of the biggest issues here is that if someone comes for screening, we have the quarantine, 2 weeks quarantine. So that may affect a lot the pilots, since maybe some of them are working, but even for the ones that are not coming here like for a month for the whole process, it's kind of difficult. So many pilots are waiting for this quarantine regulation to be canceled, in order to be able to come easily to make their other checks. So what exactly are those checks? After the interview, the pilots need to come to China, and they will be assessed in the simulator. The simulator assessment is like most of the simulator assessments around the world. The only difference is that maybe the weather conditions would be a little different, specifically the wind. In many of the countries, the pilots train with and the mentality is to train the pilots with a realistic environment, a realistic weather. So they maybe will set crosswinds with I don't know, 7 knots, maybe never more than 15 knots, things like that, when they are practicing engine failure, so things like that. And however, here in China, they will train you with sometimes even with the limit, with the wind limit, in order for you to be prepared for everything. So that's the way the training works here. So there are some pilots that maybe they have 20,000 hours experience flying. They have done hundreds of times engine failures in the simulator, but maybe they have never done it before with 25 crosswind or 30 crosswind. So it doesn't matter how much experience you have. If you have never practiced dual hydraulic failure with a 20 knots crosswind or things like that, then that's what it makes this simulator a little more complicated than the others. But the failures that the pilots will encounter, and sometimes even the order, is quite similar to the assessments they had before in their countries.
Okay. That means a good preparation is important for the simulator assessment. What's about the medical? Rumor says it's in medical, like for astronauts. How does it look like?
Okay, so yeah, so the medical is another test they will need to pass here, another exam. And the medical exam, long time ago, it was really difficult to pass. Now, I would say that in some areas of China, is not difficult. It's more complex, but difficult to pass maybe would not be the right way to describe it. Why? Most of the pilots come here for the medical exam, and maybe they will check, same like in any other country. However, here, if they find something that maybe it's not within the parameters, they will require some extra medical exams, okay? So, but at the end, most of the pilots managed to pass successfully in these days, or in the past, I think maybe 3-4 years, most of the pilots have managed to pass. But it's that the main issue is that maybe you will be scheduled for several extra examinations in order for you to pass. It's not like before, like many years ago, that if something was not within the parameters, they just fail you. Now it's different. So I think that the pilots need to come to China, experience the exam, and think that is not going to be difficult. It's just going to be maybe long or complex, but not difficult as before.
Okay, and the last big step to pass the application process is the ATP. Is it a big challenge or is it manageable?
Well, the ATP, the pilots really need to study. There are some pilots that sometimes are too confident about passing the exam, and maybe they don't study hard enough. Even they are, some of them, extremely good pilots. But I mean, this is something that we must study, and we must learn and memorize most of the questions. So yeah, it requires a lot of preparation. But once the pilots have studied hard, they will be able to pass.
Do we get some, or do the pilots get some support by the agency with some question banks or something like that?
Yes, of course. In all the steps of the process, we will be providing to the pilots different type of guides that will help them with the process, even for the medical exam. The only part of the process that we cannot really provide an accurate guide for it is, as I said before, for the video interviews. But for the medical exam, is not a problem. We will tell them, we will send them a list of different examinations that they can do in their countries before coming, in order to guarantee that they will pass the medical exam. Same as for the simulator check, and for the ATP, of course, we will send them the guidebook in order for them to prepare and study for the simulator.
Okay.
For the ATP, yeah. Let's
assume everything is done. After the 3 or 4 big tests, the background check follows, and if that is done, we are going to sign the contract, and that's a question that everybody is interested in. How does the contracts look like today? Are they completely changed? Are they still the same? What may we expect? Can you say something about that?
Okay, yeah, actually, as I talked before, so on the first trip to China is the medical exam, the ATP written exam, and the simulator check. After that, the pilots will need to wait around a month in order to be scheduled for the CAAC simulator check. This CAAC simulator check, as its name explains it, is part of the Civil Aviation Authority examinations in order for the pilot to get his or her Chinese license. So once they pass this check, then they will need to wait almost for a month in order for the background check to be finished. Meanwhile, we will request the pilot several other documents that they will need to provide to us so the background check can be done. Once the background check is finished, then the pilot can come to China and sign the contract.
Okay. And what may they expect with the contract? Are the contracts like before, or with all the benefits, or how does they look like? What can we tell?
Okay, like all airlines around the world, the contracts are changing. So it's not only in China, it's everywhere around the world, because as we all know, the COVID situation severely affect most of the airlines around the world. And even though China is the only country that no airlines bankrupt or no airlines reduce their fleet or something like that, then even though the way that China has managed everything is had been quite well, the contracts are changing. The contracts are changing. Some airlines are cutting the commuting contracts and just keeping the resident contracts, while some others are doing the opposite. And the salaries of some airlines, are reducing. Some others have maintained their salaries. So normally what we do is we give all the information to the pilot in order for the pilot to know which are the airlines that are keeping the highest salaries. And not only that, which airlines have the best base to live in China as a foreigner, because we have to be aware that as a foreigner, there are some cities that are harder to live and some cities that are excellent places to live, like Shanghai, or maybe some other cities like Xiamen or Shenzhen or Chengdu. Yeah, there are several cities in China where the foreign pilots can live very, very well, but there are others in which it may be hard. So that's as well our job, to help them decide. And regarding the contracts, even though the salaries will reduce in some of the airlines, I'm quite confident that there's no way any airline reduce their salaries below the $200,000 already after tax per year. And some may be paying above that, of course. And some maybe will still be approaching to the $300,000 per year after tax.
Okay, and these days it seems unbelievable. Okay, but it means it's still worth to apply for a pilot position in China. Thank you, Eric, for that. Do you have a last word to our applicants or a last advice?
I mean, just especially in these days, I think that it's quite important to choose a good job, a good airline to work with. And as most of the people, most of the pilots have seen, China has been quite strong while managing this situation. And most of the pilots that were working in China, we are still here working in China. Many of them took unpaid leave, yes, for several months, but sooner or later they brought us back, and just a few pilots were dismissed. But this group of pilots that were basically fired, unfortunately, were not because of the COVID situation. It was because they were working for an airline or for maybe subsidiary airlines that previously were in big financial problems. And then after that, due to the COVID situation, then that's why they told the foreigners that they needed to go back to their countries. For most of the airlines, the foreign pilots, we are still here. So I think that it's a good country to work for if you don't want to worry about the COVID situation in case there's a second wave or something like that, about losing your job.
Okay, thank you so much, Eric. I think that was a good overview, first overview for many pilots. Maybe we have another talk in a few weeks. See you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tino. And to all the pilots that are watching this interview, do not hesitate to contact us if you would like to work one day here in China.
Of course, we put all the information in the notes underneath the video, and yeah, stay in contact. Bye bye, Eric.
Okay, have a nice day, Tino. Bye.